All right, let's get into our first discussion. Ahead of deliberations on the recommendations of its Committee on Constitutional Review, the Nigeria Senate has ruled out the possibility of creating new states for the Federation. There are agitations across the 6 geopolitical zones that states should be increased from 36 to 56. But the Senate says the exercise may fuel national tension and further polarize the country. Another reason given by the Red Chamber is the fact that most states are already unviable, and as such, there is no need creating additional burdens for the country. This is the crux of our discussion, and joining me now for more on this is a lawyer and political analyst, Ahmed Abbas. Merry Christmas to you, and compliments of the season.
Same to you, my brother.
Great.
Thank you.
Now, a lot of persons were still hopeful that somehow there will be state creation to draw the government closer to the people, but the Senate, in their wisdom, from the reports we're getting now, foreclosing the possibility of creating states. What do you make of this in general?
I think I actually align myself with the position of the Senate.
Okay.
Because the question we must ask ourselves at this point in time is, we started with the amalgamation of the Southern and the Northern Protectorate, and creation of 12 states by General Yakubu Gowon to 17 states until we have 36 states. The question we want to ask ourselves today is, how has that impacted the life of an average Nigerian? And how viable are those states? First half of 2021, the internally generated revenue of the entire 36 states were put at about 841 billion naira. And out of that amount, the Southwest alone accounted for 45% of the entire IGR of the state. 45%, that's close to almost 50%. A zone responsible. So without the federal allocation, monthly federal allocation to most of the states of the Federation, there will be crisis. If the oil revenue dries up today, and the situation is that every state should rely on what they can generate internally, many states will collapse. So the problem as of today is not the issue of creation of more states. And so for me, I align myself completely with the position of the Senate.
All right. Let's even go into the reasons for these agitations from different states in the first place. Why do you think more people are agitating for state creation in the first place?
If you interrogate the history of Nigeria, agitation for state creation is not new in our history. Even prior to our independence, there were issues of the minorities, afraid of domination by the
so-called majority.
To the extent that the Willings Commission was actually set up prior to our independence to look at the fears and how do we allay the fears of the minorities. And part of the resolutions that came out, or the recommendations, were that one, we should insert, human rights in our constitution. They should set up specialized development authorities, and that there should be, a strong implementation of democratic, practices that probably that will allay the fears of the minorities. And if you look at it, the politics of state creation, there are two schools of thought. One says, it will bring development closer to the people. And there's another thought that also believes that, the politics of state creation basically also is to give some parts an opportunity to have domination over the others. That's the honest truth. And that's a school of thought. But like I said, it is always this fear. Like the question you ask is, why is there constant? It's question of people feeling not the government or the governance structure is not inclusive. Because most times you see, even within a state, they will say it's the turn of Anambra Central. It is the turn of Anambra South. It is the turn of because people just feel until my person is there, someone from our tribe is there, we do not have a guarantee that development will reach us. Now, the Southerners
even when they have their son there, nothing gets to them necessarily. But this feeling
in the politics of a state creation, as far as I'm concerned, the only benefit the masses have derived so far is the psychological, notion of we have a state. Yes, Ekiti now have a state. Yes, Ondo State we now have a state. Anambra we now have a state. The question is that, like I said, if you interrogate the creation of the state as at today, our people 70 to 75% are still living below poverty level and all the rest of them. So that's to tell you that if we were to be honest with ourselves, the creation of state has actually not
been justified.
Yes,
the way it's supposed to be.
Yes, because the cost of governance is so expensive. Look at it when we had regional government in the whole Southwest, consisting of the present 6 states, including Edo State and Delta. That's you are saying about 8 states. Had just one commissioner for education running from Ibadan, operating from Ibadan, and was able to impact positively the man in Warri with free education, the man in Sapele, the man in Benin. So the creation of most state actually ballooned the cost of governance, makes it so expensive. So if you create more states, you are simply multiplying the wastage in the system and increasing the cost of governance, because today we are complaining. You have governors that have tens of advisors, commissioners that have tens of advisors, and all the rest of them. A situation where you spend close to 80% of your budget constantly on recurrent expenditure and all that. It's a problem that we really need to address, and creating more state would simply,
But we were even thinking that the National Assembly, looking in their wisdom, looking deeply at some of these things, would have also touched on the issue of cost of governance.
It will take. Look, I think it will take a leadership that is deeply concerned about the welfare of its people to look at what are we taking out of the system as allowances, salaries, and emolument compared to what we have to develop the nation. It takes a leadership that is compassionate to look at what are we taking out of the system, what are the benefit we are taking vis-a-vis what we have left for development. You see, until you have that kind of leadership that is compassionate in heart and that is close to the people, that knows the reality on ground, then you have a leadership that is willing to sacrifice. That leadership is about sacrificing. It's about being spent and spending both your natural resources, your intellectual capacity, your physical energy, and your time. We had opportunities of the likes of, in the First Republic, and Alex Ekweme was an architect, a successful one at that matter. But he went into politics and came back poorer. He came out poorer as a vice president. The records are there. He came out poorer than he went into politics. That means he actually served, unlike the politicians we have as of today, go into the corridors of power as poor people, but come out as multi-billionaires. As of today, the most lucrative industry in Nigeria is politics. That's the honest truth. I don't like shying away from the truth. The most profitable business in Nigeria today is for you to be a politician. You are sure to make it big time. Multi-billionaires without one single factory, without a workforce behind them producing the wealth. Some don't even have offices. All they need to do is collect contract and then sell the contract. All you need to be is close to the corridors of power. And we cannot develop with that kind of mindset. We need a leadership that is compassionate enough to know that, look, when you are elected into the corridors of power, it is to serve the people. And the people must be able to know you serve them. Because, like I situate sometimes within the context of an analogy, I said, leading a people is like transporting them by plane, probably from Lagos to Abuja. When they get to their destination, they will know. But when you try to convince them, when you take them to a wrong destination and you are constantly trying to force down their throat, I want to go to Abuja. I know how Abuja looks like. I've been to Abuja several times. You fly me as a pilot, you land in Maiduguri, and you are compelling me to accept that this is Abuja. That is the dilemma of the Nigerian political scenario. The leadership thinks the people don't know where they want to go. We know exactly where we want to go. If you ask an average Nigerian, 2021 and 2020, how compare? Was your life better? They know. It is not about the statistics you reel out from your Ministry of Finance or Nigerian Bureau. They know exactly whether you as a governor, you impacted their life. And when you try to force down the truth of people to accept what is not, then it brings some, it creates problem for the people, because deep down within them, they know. You are the CEO of an organization. The staff know whether you're a good CEO or not. So it is not you that will be beating your chest and say, I'm the best CEO in town. When you translate, when you add value to the people, when there's a progress in their life, when there's an advancement,
they know. They know. I take that. That's word there. Now let's talk about the issue of viability, creating viability for states. This has been on the top of discussion for so many years now, when some people say that governors and chief executives are not creative. Everybody waits until the end of the month, go to Abuja and let us share and democratize the resources, and then we go back and also do further sharings in the states and local governments and all of that. But if we have to look at this issue of creating viability for states, especially for states outside of the ones you mentioned earlier, because if you put all the states together, maybe Lagos, River State, Anambra State, and maybe Kano State, maybe some of the states that are viable, that can survive without a monthly allocation from Abuja. So how do we create that?
Thank you very much for this question. You see, one day I had the opportunity of sitting with one of the leaders in one of the states. I said, when you say a state is poor, in case you do not know what you are saying, the implication is that you are presiding over poor people. If you are the governor of a state and you say your state is poor, what you are saying indirectly is that you are presiding over very unproductive people. The wealth of a state is linked directly to the economic prosperity and productivity of the people in that state. So your first assignment as a governor is to simply look at the resources you have, the human capital, and design a strategy to detonate the productive capacity of the people. Because your IGR, your revenue, your taxes is directly linked to how productive the people are. If you are presiding virtually over unemployed people, how do you intend to generate revenue? Are you going to extract their kidney to sell? So you have to ask, and can I say this with all sense of humility? There is no state that is poor in this nation. I can tell you categorically, no state is poor. It's because we do not have creative leaders. Every square meter of land in this nation is money. It depends on the creativity and the resourcefulness of the people. Let me just give you one example. Can you imagine that in a nation that wants to develop, your land, barely 3%, a few years back, that is the statistics, have title documents. Just 3% of the vast expanse of land you have in Nigeria. PricewaterhouseCoopers in 2019 said, we have close to $600 billion worth of dead capital.
Dead capital?
Dead capital.
Okay.
Dead capital. Capitals that are lifeless within the Nigerian economy. $600 billion worth of dead capital. You need to bring life to those capital. It takes creativity. It takes resourcefulness. It takes innovation. The Land Use Act is it's actually a big bottleneck in being able to detonate this guy because of the power of the states, of the governor of the states, having power to give consent to all lands and all the rest of them. Most governors do not know how to exercise that power creatively on behalf of the people to jumpstart the mind-boggling wealth that is locked up in that aspect of our nation. I've done incredible research. You do not need one single naira to explode the potential in that sector. But because most of them, we are so locked down with Abuja, in going to Abuja on a monthly basis to get this, we do not know the potentials that are lying very close to us. We've made presentations, and it's every square meter, I repeat, every square meter of land in this nation is actually money. It's an asset.
Is that where the dead capital is?
Yes. Yes. That is where it is. 600 billion. I'm not saying I said, or one riffraff said, PricewaterhouseCoopers said that we have $600 billion worth of dead capital in Nigeria. Can you imagine if we, through creativity and resourcefulness, detonate the potential, the multiplier effect is going to have on the economy? It's about creativity and resource. I'm saying this. There is no state. Their land is an asset. It depends on how you creatively put it to use. It's about bringing people that understand the dynamics of how you can convert this into tools of empowerment.
All right. Now, someone was analyzing national issues sometime, and he said we often mistake unity for uniformity and uniformity for unity, where it seems the government is trying to ensure that all states, look alike, the character of everything should be the same and all of that, forgetting the fact that originally we are not meant to be the same kind of people. In fact, the variety in the diversity is even more beautiful. Liking it back to the First Republic, where we had, the different regions producing different things, doing their different things, the way they were doing it, that was recorded as the most prosperous bracket that Nigeria ever had. So this uniformity, how dangerous is this uniformity? We're trying to ensure that Borno State is like Lagos, or Benue State is like Niger, or Sokoto State is like Akwa Ibom, and stuff like that.
You see, the problem with our lawmakers, our leaders, is that if you do not understand that if you are making laws and you do not take the history of the people into cognizance, you are going to run into problem. You are likely going to run into problem. The kind of federalism we are practicing today is creating so much chaos, so much anarchy, so much bitterness, so much frustration. Because if you trace your history, prior to 1960, the founding fathers sat down and said, look, we have one common enemy, the colonial masters, and we need to drive them. So let's forget our differences first. Let's be unified. Let's drive them away. Put an end to colonialism. When we are through with driving away the colonial masters, we'll come and resolve our differences. And that was why they had the 1960 Constitution. It was basically, we want independence. Nigeria, all of us, the northern region, southern region, western region, everybody, we want independence. We are on the same page. And when the British masters saw these people, their mind is made up. Okay, you guys are going 1960. They came back after 1960 and looked at each other eyeball to eyeball and said, now we need to reconcile our differences. Yes, United Nation, but we need some space to develop at our individual level. You take control of certain aspect of your life. And that's why the regional government, the 1963 Constitution came about. Everybody developed. So you go back to your region and you decide what you think is best for your people. Chief Obafemi Awolowo came back to Western Nigeria and felt my priority, I want to develop my human capital. And what is the strategy? I'm going to make education affordable and accessible. He defined his vision clearly. I need a highly trained manpower. So I'm going to use the vast majority of my budget in educating my people. And in order to ensure that nobody is left out, I'm going to make it free. That is, in fact, it was even punishable also. That if they see your child that ought to be in school
Roaming the streets.
Roaming the street during school hours. The parents are likely to go to jail. But it was mandatory. That was his clear vision. And University of Ibadan came into existence as, in line with his vision. And Nnamdi Azikiwe peeped over the wall from his region and saw what was happening here and said, well, my people won't be behind. And University of Nigeria and Nsukka came. And Ahmadu Bello, peeped over the northern region, destined to the south, and saw what was happening in the educational sector and said, well, we also need the higher education and tertiary institution in the north. ABU came into existence. It was a healthy competition until the military came and, in their unitary, Aguiyi Ironsi, brought in the unitary system, and everybody now was going to Abuja to take order. And the politicians came, and they are not willing, they do not have the courage to look at it that there was an aberration along the line. And the aberration is what is coming to commotion at the cabin called Nigeria. Because everybody is feeling a little bit uncomfortable. There are things, okay, for example, in the north, in Kano State, for example, you don't want alcohol in your area and all the rest of them. Fine and good. If that is what is good for you, why not? But for those states that wants to, become an alcoholic state, let them have their freedom to do it. So until we go back and renegotiate, because there's tension in the land, except we are pretending. Everybody, the IPOB is a commotion in the cabin. The Igbohos and the Akitoyes, the self-determination groups and all the rest of them, even the Boko Haram and all the rest of them, they are tensions of a system that is not accommodating, just trying to, run people as if they are animals, they don't have emotions, they don't have anything. You need to understand that we need to sit down and decide to say, look, what this country just needs is just honest leaders that will be willing to sacrifice, because along the line of renegotiation, some people will have to give, some things we have to give. But if we insist that the way things are, we should continue like that, we are bound to continue to have tensions that will not be beneficial to the nation.
All right. Well, we must thank you so much for your insight, Ahmed Abbas, for this analysis of looking at Nigeria and dissecting it, especially from the legal perspective and how, the Constitution can make us feel better as a federal system of government. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
It's a pleasure. Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Right.